Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
David.
David, good to see you.
Tell me everything that you know about the Polynesian deity Lono, L-O-N-O.
I don't know anything about the Polynesian deity Lono.
So you don't have a belief in Lono then? So how do you must not know what you're missing? Okay, fine. But where does that get us? That was his entire argument of the prompt.
So L-O-N-O.
I don't know anything about the Polynesian deity Lono.
So you're rejecting something without knowledge of what you're rejecting.
I'm not rejecting it. No more than I'm rejecting.
Do you believe in Lono?
If you don't believe in Lono, then you are rejecting that belief and saying, no, I don't have a belief in that. You're not saying you disbelieve in Lono. You're just saying you do not have a belief in Lono.
Without knowledge of what you're rejecting.
I'm not rejecting it. No more than I'm rejecting.
Do you believe in Lono?
I don't know anything.
Do you believe in Lono? Do you believe that he is a deity that exists in the world, exists in the universe, that exists in the existence of everything? Do you believe that Lono
I'll
is
answer
a
that
being?
question once you answer my question, which is, do I reject everything that I'm ignorant of? Because that's your presupposition that undergirds your argument. And unless you can prove that that's valid, then there's no point.
My question is,
so Guantok says not believing and rejecting are two different things, though. Absolutely correct. So before this dude brought up Lono, then he was not. He was just not believing in Lono. Then the idea was presented to him. There's a Polynesian god named Lono. Do you believe in that? Then he said no. So the not being ignorance and rejecting things are two different things. But yes, once an idea has been presented to you, you either reject it or you don't.
Supposition that undergirds your argument, and unless you can prove that that's valid, then there's no point.
My question is quite simple.
Yeah, but that doesn't
Do
mean
you
it's
believe-
formulated accurately.
Do you believe
It is,
that
though.
Lono exists? Yes or no?
I'm not going to answer that question for the reasons.
Oh, what did you have for breakfast? Or how would you feel if you didn't have breakfast? I'm not going to answer that question. You just said you'd never heard of it. So why not just say no? Why not just say no?
I just described. You already insisted that if I reject something, that if I'm ignorant of something, I reject it. Do you think that?
Right, but then he was asked, do you believe in it, yes or no? So if he's not aware of it, then you would say, no, I don't believe in that. That's rejecting it.
Everyone in the world has to know everything simultaneously for that to be valid and true?
And of course, Guantok is going to go right to his daddy's favorite question. Well, what do you mean by believe? Accept the claim as in adherence with reality. That's what I mean.
Do you think that everyone in the world has to know everything simultaneously for that to be valid and true?
Straw man.
I think in order for your
Answer that
argument
question.
to be true, in order for it to be true that we atheists don't understand what we're rejecting, then you need to also apply that to yourself and to Christians and to Muslims and to any other person on this earth, where if you don't understand what you're rejecting the belief in, then you can't reject the belief in it. That's the implication of your
I didn't
claim.
say that I rejected the belief in Lono. I said
it's
I didn't
Lono.
know who Lono was. I didn't
Right.
say anything about rejecting.
That's because I've asked.
Right. So maybe I don't know who Yahweh is. And that's why I'm an atheist. Not because I reject Yahweh, but because I don't know Yahweh. It's the same thing.
I said
it's
I didn't
Lono.
know who Lono was. I didn't
Right.
say anything about rejecting.
That's because I've asked you several times and you haven't. But let me get to my even greater point.
He doesn't need to do anything, but if he wants to convince people, in fact, he does.
You're saying atheists don't understand what religion is or what God is in order to be able to reject it fully or completely. We have someone over here who studied it in their own way. I've studied religion. I have a degree in religious studies, specialty in their own way. I've studied religion. I have a degree in religious studies, specialty in Christianity and Mediterranean traditions.
So again, not just a militant atheist.
And further than that, beyond me, Pew Research studies suggest that atheists and agnostics actually know more about religion and about religious stories, the foundational principles, than believers.
That's because they're more religious than they think they are.
Okay.
Or more spiritual.
You can.
They're concerned with deep matters, and one of the defining characteristics of someone who's oriented in religious direction is that they're concerned with deep matters.
Okay.
In fact, it's virtually definition.
Right, but they also have to.
So again, we're obfuscating the semantics. So if you're, what do you say, deeply...
Religious direction is that they're concerned with deep matters.
So if you're concerned with deep matters, now that has to do with religion. So it doesn't matter if you believe in the truth claims. If you think about stuff deeply, that makes you religious. Semantic obfuscation.
In fact, it's virtually definitional.
Right, but they
That's
also
not
have
how
to
people
identify
use
with
that.
the religious tradition and accept the foundational stories that go along
Well,
with
that would mean more that they're sectarian than that they're religious. And most people, for example, in the United States, deny that they're religious, but accept that they're spiritual.
Let's pause there. You've been
And is that a problem?
voted out by the majority.
Aha! Hi, nice to meet you.
How are you doing?
Good, how
What's
are
your
you?
name?
I'm Greg. Nice to
Hi,
meet you.
Greg.
Okay, so I
Okay, he seems like might be a little bit more, like a typical leftist. But I'm judging. Let's see.
feel like you're getting at this idea of polysemy, where we have multiple related meanings for a word, right? Like, for example, a famous painting can be emotionally moving in that it changes my emotional state. And when I was on the highway coming here to the studio, I was physically moving. I was changing my position. If I said, I believe the Mona Lisa is very moving, and you said, you don't really understand what you're saying, it's nailed to the wall, I would say that you're the one who doesn't understand what I'm saying. Not
Dilly to that. Oh, was I wrong? That is a beautiful way to demonstrate how the muddying of the waters of, well, what do you mean by believe? Like, if you want to have the discussion of let's dig into belief and what that actually is, that's fine. But let's not pretend that there's not a colloquial definition of belief. And when somebody says, I believe in God, that, or let's not even say, I left my keys on my bedside table, that you have no fucking clue what they're talking about.
not the other way around. And the way that relates to this is there are many concepts of God, and I'll admit, I find a lot of what you say about that interesting. I'm familiar with it. The idea of this kind of Jungian hierarchical thing, or as a metaphor or a symbol, or the kind of, atheist, materialist, literalist idea of a agentic, omnipotent, omniscient being that intervenes in reality, right? So when I'm saying that I reject the concept of God, I'm aware of these other definitions of God. But I think that when we use words, we tend to only imply one meaning at a time. So the same way that I would say the Mona Lisa is moving emotionally, but I would not say it's moving physically. I would say I reject the concept of God in this very literal way. But
What literal way?
the way
That there's not a man in the sky.
that God is this omniscient, omnipotent, agentic, supernatural being that sent his son down and has, caused miracles and all these things like that. The idea of God is
Do you
like,
think that there's an underlying unity of things?
Biggie, this is you're supposing that we have no idea who Jordan Peterson is. Just because somebody disagrees with Jordan Peterson doesn't mean that they don't know what he was doing in 2017. Like, on this very playlist, I have this video that is up next to watch, and it's called Mega 2017 Jordan
But she
Peterson
wanted
Great
to
Again.
hear. She
I know who we're talking about. This isn't some random thing that I just decided to oh, what's this? You're assuming that because we disagree that we don't know. You are wrong, sir.
caused miracles and all these things like that. The idea of God is
Do you
like,
think that there's an underlying unity of things?
could you explain that question?
Well, scientists, for example, believe that science unifies in a comprehensive theory. Do you? Yes? No? Or
I
that
know
there are
that people-
multiple competing truths? Those are the options. Either things unify or there are multiple competing truths.
I think that I know that, for example, like in physics, people are looking for like a theory of everything.
And why do you think they're doing that?
Because they think that there is something underlining, and that very well may be. But you don't get to claim that there is before we determine that, in fact, there is.